Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is a show called Top 10, a series where I compile my personal pop culture picks. My name is EJ Moreno, and this episode is all about my top 10 movies from 2017. I'm gonna start this off with listing some honorable mentions. Not anything like that made my top 10, but these are seriously movies I loved in 2017, but just not as much as some other ones. Included in my honorable mentions is movies like A Cure for Wellness, Power Rangers, Justice League, Atomic Blonde, Wonder Woman, Logan Lucky, Split, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and finally, Star Wars The Last Jedi. If you've seen my videos, you know Star Wars The Last Jedi almost made my top 10. It's not that great, but it is a seriously fun movie, and I think a perfect way to kind of like get us ready for my top 10. Coming in at number 10 on my list is Coco. If you remember my review for Coco, I highly praised this movie. Seriously, this is one of the best movies of the year. A lot of these movies are just kind of my favorites. They may not be the best, but Coco is undoubtedly one of the best animated movies of the year, if not one of the best animated movies in the last decade. Coco really shook me, not only as a Latino, because this is a Mexican movie and I'm not trying to take it away from the Mexican community, but there is a lot to relate to if you're Spanish, if you're white, if you're black, if you're Asian. This is a beautiful story about family and a young boy trying to find his place in that family. Not just a young boy, a young artist. And if you are an artist, you realize it's hard to find your place in this world, and it's hard to find your place in a family, let alone when you're having to go over to the land of the dead and figure out family stuff and drama from that end, and then go back here to the world of the living. This movie is way more intense than a normal animated film, and that's why it fits on my list. Most of the movies are not kid-friendly on my list, but Coco kind of transcends the kid movie like label and just becomes a great, powerful film. I told you Coco's gonna look weird next to the rest of these movies because coming in at number 9 is the indie drama Beach Rats. The simplest way to describe Beach Rats is if Brokeback Mountain and Moonlight had a baby, it would be Beach Rats. I really enjoyed this movie. It's a beautiful story about a young gay boy who's trying to find his place in the world. If you notice, that's most of the common themes out of a lot of these movies on my list, is trying to find your place in this world because those messages speak to me, and Beach Rats speaks to me, not only as a gay man, because this movie is not just about a gay man trying to fall in love. This is about a man who's confused about his sexuality, trying to figure out what he even likes and if he's gonna be accepted for what he likes. It's a different story than we normally get to hear be told with the gay dramas. Like you have a movie like Call Me By Your Name. Both of them are pretty secure in their sexuality, so you don't get that extra layer of drama. Beach Rats is that extra layer of drama that I loved. Coming in at number 8 on my list is I, Tonya. If there was a movie ever made for me, it's I, Tonya. This is a very, very, very dark comedy with a great story about one of the most melodramatic soap opera stories to ever happen in American history. It is about Tonya Harding and her place in the world, once again, as trying to find herself to be a figure skater in a world that doesn't really like how she looks, how she acts, how her upbringing is, and she tries to defy all of that to be a great figure skater. And surprise, it's still not that easy. So she accepts her role as the villain, and I have to say, I love a good villain, and Tonya Harding knows we all love a good villain, and she kind of martyrs herself off to be that villain for us to hate, so we can in turn kind of love her. This movie's so great. Margot Robbie is an amazing actress. One of my favorite roles she has done. Not that I think she kind of embodies Tonya Harding, because there would be times where they're like, oh, you're so ugly, you don't fit in, and I'm like, it's Margot Robbie's face, she's gorgeous. So that kind of distracted me a little bit, but other than that, this is a great movie. It gets compared to like Goodfellas with figure skating, and yeah, that's a pretty accurate description of how to describe this. It's campy, it's dramatic, it's so fun to watch. I definitely recommend you check out I, Tonya. Another story about an artist trying to find their place in the world. Coming in at number 8 is The Disaster Artist. Oh hi, number 7 position on my list. I am so excited to talk about The Disaster Artist because I didn't think I would enjoy this movie as much as I did. I love The Room. I think it's one of the most infamously bad movies ever, and I love a good bad movie. So to see a movie about The Room and about the making of it, you sold me. Starring James Franco, Yeah, you sold me even more. I loved The Disaster Artist because I also realized as a person who's trying to find his place in the art world and in the film community, it's hard and it's not easy. And the story that Tommy Wiseau goes through to make The Room is something we could all really relate to. It's a good story about friendship. It's a good story about trying to be an artist and trying to make a movie you want to see. Who cares what everyone else thinks? If you like what you're doing, keep doing it. And that's the message The Disaster Artist gave me. I love James Franco so much in this movie that I would say I think he should win the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Comedy. Hell, he's even a front runner for me personally at the Oscars for Best Actor. Is the rest of the movie as strong as James Franco's performance? No. It gets hard to like fall in love with the whole movie as it's a movie about making a bad movie. So it's not going to be as polished as you would think. But I will say this is truly a role that James Franco was made for and what defined him as a beautiful character actor. The only superhero movie to make my top 10 list, coming in at number 6, is Logan. Way back when I was on a different channel on YouTube, Logan was the first film I reviewed on YouTube, and I have to say, this movie still sticks with me. This movie still makes me think deeply about the things I saw on screen. This is not just a normal superhero movie. This is a great film. This is an art movie. This is James Mangold being like, okay, I know some of my other movies aren't as strong, but here's Logan. Here's what I think is one of the most beautiful stories to be told, to be set in a superhero movie as well. Just mind-blowing. Hugh Jackman's performance as Wolverine/Logan it's just phenomenal. It's the best he's done in his career. It showed me layers. I know like Hugh Jackman's great in Les Mis, or he was fine in The Greatest Showman, or hell, he's been good in other movies. But this is the movie that he's been like born for. He's been a great Logan his entire career, but we've never had this good of a performance. But it's not just the amazing performance from Hugh Jackman. Daphne Keane as X-23/Laura. Come on, until there was not a better kid performance this year than Daphne Keane. She ate that movie up, and I will say this is probably the year of the kid actors because between Daphne Keane and the cast of It, they're all on top of it. But it's not just Daphne Keane, it's not just Hugh Jackman. The person who broke my heart the most is Patrick Stewart. It's a travesty he's not gotten a nomination for Best Supporting Actor because Patrick Stewart is amazing. His Professor Xavier and the send-off they get the character is poetic, it's deadly, it's heartbreaking. Logan is the heartbreaking superhero movie we've all been waiting for. Kicking off my top 5 is a movie I personally loved more than I thought I would, and it's called Lady Macbeth. No, this is not a Shakespearean drama. Lady Macbeth is a beautiful, beautiful melodrama about a woman who is in a loveless marriage with a much older man, and she starts an affair, and it is an affair to remember. I loved Lady Macbeth. There's maybe one other movie that I said, ooh, shit, more than Lady Macbeth, but this is such a beautiful drama. It's also one of John Waters' favorite movies of the year. If you know me, I love John Waters. He's one of my favorite directors ever. So if he gives this movie a recommendation, I think you should definitely check it out. He did recommend Baby Driver, and I hated that movie. So, okay, take that with a grain of salt. But Lady Macbeth is such a great movie. I thought it was going to be kind of a very dry Shakespearean drama. And no, it is a campy, soap opera-esque, oh my God, I can't believe she did that. I can't believe she said that. She did that to him. I just love it. I think this is the kind of drama I live for. And Lady Macbeth really kind of shapes the rest of my top 5 as these are movies filled with women who are just insanely badass and ready to kind of take control. Before I jump into the rest of the badass women of the year, I have to drop off and say number 4 on my list is It. I have not seen a movie as many times this year as I saw It. The first viewing of It, I was okay on it. I thought it was fine, but I kept thinking about it. And then I was like, you know what, I want to watch it again. And then I watched it again. And then I watched it again. And then again. I think I've seen this movie 4 or 5 times this year. It is one of the best horror films to come out this year, let alone within the last couple years. This is also one of the best Stephen King adaptations. Not only I will put it on par with The Shining. The Shining is an amazing movie, but it's a horrible adaptation. Stanley Kubrick was just oh, that's cute, throw the book out. With It is a great adaptation and also a great movie on its own, and I have to appreciate that. Pennywise in this film is phenomenal. Tim Curry will never be replaced, but Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise is of note. But the real stars of this movie is the beautiful cast of kids. I got to meet them this year at a horror convention called Spooky Empire, and they're some of the most mature and awesome kids to watch. Let alone in person. God, on screen, I felt like I was in the Losers Club. I felt like I knew each one of these kids. I hated Richie. I wanted to be best friends with Bev. Like, I just love that there's somebody in this group that you can relate to. And there's someone that you could just want to be best friends with. I love it. I think this is the type of movie we needed for the horror genre because it kind of put us as horror fans to the top of everyone's list. Like, this is one of the highest grossing horror movies. Wait, never mind. It is the highest grossing movie of all time. That says how important this movie is for our genre and for 2017. Ooh, we're about to enter the top 3. So coming in third on my list is Get Out.
A bomb is a terrible thing to waste.
Like I mentioned with the movie It, Get Out is one of the most important horror movies we're ever going to see. Not only is this movie getting an amazing award season push, like come on, we have a horror movie nominated at the Golden Globes, potentially at the Oscars. That hasn't happened in such a long time. I think the last one I can really remember is Black Swan, let alone the last time a horror movie has won is with Silence of the Lambs. Can you believe that? It's basically since 1991 that we've had a horror movie at the Oscars. I think Get Out has a good chance, and not only because this is a movie about a black story that a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's a social justice movie, of course it's going good. No, this is a great film. This just goes beyond just a black issue. This goes to a great horror film. This is a terrifying concept that can scare anybody. I love what Jordan Peele did for his feature film debut. Nobody has touched a feature film debut like Jordan Peele has this year. An amazing film and just one of my favorite movies of the year. Like I said with It, I think I've seen Get Out like a lot of times, and that's hard that like in 2017 to rewatch a movie that many times, but Get Out is one of them. Number 2 and number 1 are just movies that I keep interchanging. I just don't know which one I love more, but for the sake of this list, coming in at number 2 is The Beguiled. A Sofia Coppola drama set in the Civil War with a bunch of crazy women and a crazy guy. Yeah, I was sold the second I saw the trailer for this movie, let alone when the movie started and the aspect ratio was different. Aspect ratio is basically how like the screen size is. This movie was so square. It gave me such an authentic like 70s feel, and I was sold from the movie. Like the moment the movie like opened, I was like, oh, okay, good. And then the movie started, and it is the most oh my god drama I have seen this year. There's an apple pie scene where it is one of the most scandalous like, ooh, she did that moments. Like I said, Lady Macbeth had a lot of like, ooh, scandal in it. Not like The Beguiled. The Beguiled was just such a crazy film. Nicole Kidman gave one of my favorite performances of the year. She also was in a movie called The Killing of the Sacred Deer, which I loved I love that movie a lot. It's another kind of twisted horror movie, psychological thriller. But Nicole Kidman in The Beguiled is a tour de force performance. Wow, even Colin Farrell, who I'm not a big fan of, did so great in The Beguiled. Elle Fanning, Kristen Dunst. There is just an amazing cast of women who just play an amazing cast of women. I loved seeing this movie. I can rewatch The Beguiled, not as much as like It or Get Out, but every time I rewatch The Beguiled, I just get so excited that I'm entering this crazy story again. And finally, if you know me, you know my number 1 movie of the year, and it's Darren Aronofsky's film, Mother. I said it at the beginning of this video, all these movies are not what I think are the best movies, but my favorites, except for Mother. To me, Mother is one of the best movies of the year. For me, this is everything I go into the cinema for. It is pretentious, it is horrifying, it is beautifully filmed, there's some great craftsmanship here. Jennifer Lawrence gives a performance I loved. Those words never come out of my mouth. I loved Mother so much. This movie scared me, it shook me, it left me just flabbergasted. And what I love the most is this is one of the most hated movies of the year because the audience had no idea what they were getting into. I've seen Black Swan, I've seen Requiem for a Dream. I didn't expect this to be a normal movie. but I did not expect. I basically call this like a diet Lars von Trier movie because this movie is just so pretentiously artsy and so horrifying that it reminds me of a movie like Nymphomaniac or Antichrist. I just cannot talk about Mother enough. I have a whole video dedicated to how much I love. Hell, Mother kicked off my channel. I got to start this channel with my love of Mother. Like, not just my mother, but the movie Mother. Watch this movie. I'm warning you, it has an intense third act. Some of the most brutal things I've seen in an American movie in quite some time. But take that recommendation and know you're going to be watching a wild movie. So definitely check out Mother. So that's it for my top 10 list. I really had a great time breaking down some of my favorite movies of the year. This has been a wild year. For as many duds as they've been, there has been even more great films. This is an impactful year, not even for the horror genre, which I did a whole video about that, but for cinema. Things are changing in the landscape of Hollywood, and 2017 I think will be remembered as one of the years to start that change. Thank you so much for tuning in. It does mean the world to me that you stopped and watched my video. I love doing these top 10 lists. I've been doing a lot of movie reviews and things like that kind of in between, so I promise I will get back down to top 10s. Oh, I have a suggestion for you guys. Leave me suggestions down below. What top 10 list do you want to see? Top 10 movies of the 70s, top 10 best TV shows, things like that I would love to do. So give me some suggestions down in the comments below, and thank you again for tuning in.